Hello and welcome to Turning Pages, a show that's about books and more than books. And a shout out to Paul Brogan, who's not able to be with us today. And he's missing out on a real treat because I am welcoming a very, very special guest. All of our guests on Turning Pages are special, but Laura Knoy is my friend. She's my event collaborator when we put on events. She's a member of the Concord TV family here in the Concord TV studios. She records her podcast. And she's noted for her longtime career as a journalist. Everyone in New Hampshire and beyond knows her for her 25 years hosting The Exchange on New Hampshire Public Radio. And her transition to novelist, which is the hat that she's wearing today, came about through her college study abroad year. Her very first novel, The Shopkeeper of Alsace, will be published very, very soon on November 7th. So welcome, Laura. It's great to have you here.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
And
I
my
miss
pleasure.
Paul. So
I know. Sorry that he couldn't be with us
Paul,
today.
and we love him.
So what is a brief description, or an extended description actually, of how you learned about your book's heroine, Sarah Siebert, and what is the origin story of the novel?
Right. So in the mid-1980s, as you said, I was an exchange student in Strasbourg, France, which is in Alsace, which is a province right on the Rhine River. So if you can picture France, you know, the ocean is here, Paris is here, and the Rhine River is here. Yeah. And I chose Strasbourg because French was my main language, but I also spoke a little German at the time. And you can ride your bike to Germany. It's very close. So I was an exchange student there, and one weekend, you know, Strasbourg's a big city, and one weekend they gave all the girls on the program a weekend in the country. So I got paired with this woman, Annette, who, readers will learn, was 8 years old when the Nazis came across the Rhine River and her whole family had to flee her little town. So that's how I met Annette. But you're right, the heroine of the story is her mother, Sarah, who basically shepherded her family all over France, just trying to stay one step ahead of the bad guys.
And from Poland as well.
And from Poland as well. Sarah's story starts in Poland. She grew up in World War I, the middle daughter of a large family of prosperous Jewish shopkeepers. And World War I was traumatic for everyone, including Jews in Poland. So they were constantly moving from place to place to place. And when she left Poland at the end of World War I, moves to France, she has 20 years of the perfect little French life, and then World War II comes crashing into her life, but she's got those lessons. She's seen this movie before, and she knows how it ends, and she's ready.
Well, she is very ready because her time in Poland was moving from place to place as life became difficult in various cities for the Jews because of the Russians or the Germans or who's going to be in charge.
Right.
And most of them didn't like that culture and were forcing them to move and stealing their goods, and they would lose their shops, and it wasn't just this family but lots and lots of people. So this migration, and finally they reach a place that seems like the place of safety and security, and then World War II breaks out.
Right.
Which, so does that, what is unique about the novels compared to others that are set during and between the world wars?
I am so glad you asked that question, because
it's an important point to make.
It is an important point, and there are so many World War II novels out there, and many of which I have read because I love this genre. There's less about World War I published in this country anyway. As you know, Margaret, because you know Europe and Britain especially so well. In Britain and in Europe, there are many World War I novels as well, but we didn't feel that war as deeply in this country.
No, we arrived late to the
Yes,
to the party.
Very late, like April of 1917,
right,
and the war ended in the fall of 1918. But I love that question because one of the struggles that I had when I was first trying to sell the book to literary agents is there's so much World War II out there already. And that's true, but this book is very different in three key ways. One is the time period. Most World War II novels start in 1939 when the bombs start falling, right, on Poland. Or they start in 38 when, things are getting really scary and there's the Anschluss and all that.
But you don't get to follow the trajectory towards all of those things.
Exactly. And I'm not faulting those books. Again, I read these all the time. As a journalist, there's that saying, don't bury the lead. You start when the action starts. But what we miss with that characterization of World War II basically started in 39 is all that build-up.
The context.
And the context. And really, 20 years between World War I and World War II, really. 21 if you want to be fussy. So what I do in this book is I start in the middle of World War I and I trace all the way up through the end of World War II. And there's so much that happens, all these cultural and economic and social and political trends in those tumultuous 2 decades. A very famous book, long time ago, Herman Wouk, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, The Winds of War.
Yes.
I think he traces that.
I remember the miniseries. There was on television.
That's right.
Yes, they televised it, yeah.
And this is not to knock other World War II novels, but most of them start right in 1938 or 39, and mine kind of shows you that wider context. So that's a big difference.
Yes.
The other difference, I would say, is the setting. Most World War II novels, not all, but many, the majority, take place in Paris. And maybe people have to leave Paris and they come back to Paris or whatever, but most World War II novels have a beautiful woman on the front and the Eiffel Tower.
Yes, that's true.
And that's great. Americans love that.
Well, it's marketing. It really, that image speaks to Paris during the war and the occupation and all of that kind of thing.
And it's wonderful.
Yes, but they don't realize that. This book, your characters experience the Vichy aspect of that war and what happens in France, in addition to the Alsace presentation. Exactly.
So, and there are other World War II novels that aren't set in Paris, but the bulk are set in Paris or in other places. There are very few World War II fiction books that take place in Alsace, and Alsace suffered uniquely during the war because it was annexed back into Germany. So one day you're French, and the next day you're German.
Over generations and centuries, actually.
Right.
It's like today we're German, but tomorrow we could be French. And indeed, that transpired for such a long period of time. So it's like by the time World War II breaks out, they'd seen this movie before.
Yes.
And that's just part of living there.
Right.
But at that time,
Right.
and it's all, I'm sure everyone is connected to conflicts and difficulties and deprivations and all of that, but most significantly in World War II.
Right, and definitely people in occupied France and northern France suffered. Definitely people under the Vichy regime suffered. But Alsace and its sister province Lorraine, if high school history you might remember Alsace-Lorraine, I argue, and a lot of historians feel the same way, they suffered uniquely because they were annexed back into Germany immediately. All of a sudden you could not speak French, you could not read French, you could not wear a French beret, you could not say bonjour in the street, you could not read French books, you had to hide them or burn them or whatever. I mean, it was just dramatic. Can you imagine you want to wear your beret and you could be arrested?
Yeah. Well, but also uniquely, I think, which is why it seems like the place of safety, that the Jewish refugees were, there was not that great prejudice or acting against Jewish people, that it was kind of a live and let live until obviously the Germans crossed in and changed everything for the worse.
Right. Germany cleared Alsace of undesirables, Jews, Asians, anyone of African descent, anyone that was deemed too French.
Too French.
Yeah, they were cleaned out of Alsace and told not to return.
Well, the settings and the locations that we're talking about here are so well drawn and very familiar to you. How and where did you conduct your on-site research? Not counting the time at university when you didn't realize you'd be writing a novel one day, but since that time during the preparation of the novel.
Oh, and as a historical novelist yourself, you know how much I love this question because we're all about the research.
And we love to be in the place where our characters lived and breathed.
We do.
Definitely.
So I go back to Alsace frequently because I have close friends there. Annette has passed away, but her children are now my good friends. So I go back often, but starting in 2018, I started going back with an eye toward, I'm going to write this story somehow. So I started going around and just looking at things more closely, going to museums a little more closely, connecting with historians. And then in 2018, I started this whole process, the family gave me its story.
And what a gift.
What a gift. I still get shivers when I think about it.
I'm sure. I do too.
I mean, so in 2005, the 3 children of Sarah sat down and recorded their memories for posterity. And I had said to Annette's children, I'd love to write your mother's story someday.
And they knew that there was a story to record.
Right.
So their awareness of the fact that what their family had gone through, the fact that it was saved for posterity is so wonderful.
It's such a gift.
So telling that they recognized that there was a story there.
When they were in their late 70s and early 80s, they just sat down one day and recorded all this. So when I started talking to the family about, this is a beautiful story, and by the way, your grandmother was amazing, amazing. How is this story even true? They said, well, we have these cassette tapes, which shows you how long ago it was. Do you want them? And I was like, yes, yes, I want them. So that forms the basis of the story. So it's heavily, heavily, heavily based on a very true story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then you have returned there different times, and that to me comes through, and knowing that you've had traveled there, but in the writing, it definitely comes so clear, the sense of place and the atmosphere, and carrying the reader not just as those regions are today, but the way they were at that time. And I think you've just done a magnificent job.
Well, it's really it's a love letter to 2 places in a way. I mean, the story is a World War I, World War II story, but it's also a love letter to Alsace.
What it endured.
What it endured, and just how beautiful it is, because it is beautiful. I always think the Alsatian Tourism Bureau should pay me, because
yes.
But I discovered in the process of doing this research, Margaret, another region of France that I knew nothing about called the Cevennes. And this is in, some people, if you're a Francophile, you might have heard of the Massif Central. It's not a heavily touristed area. It's not the Côte d'Azur. It's not Provence. It's not Paris. It's not, it's this rugged, mountainous, cliffs, caves, gorges area. And that's where the family ends up hiding out for the bulk of the war. And the people down there, as readers will learn, were feisty. And they hid a lot of Jews, resistors, what were then called gypsies. We now call them Romas. Spanish Civil War refugees. Prior to
the border,
a couple years prior to World War II breaking out. So I discovered the Cevennes for the first time in 2022. I had not been there before, and this one little town where my friend's family was protected. Just walking through that town, and I just started crying. I just pictured my 8-year-old friend walking through here and being protected by these incredible people. Yeah. Well,
we don't want to spoil it, but
no, I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, but there was a lot of incredible people in the story. Now, your story is a blend of fact and fiction.
Yes.
You've got the factual part of the history and the family's fact, and then some informed speculation about what Sarah was thinking as she was doing all these things. Although we can all imagine how it felt to be in her situations, which were all quite trying and dangerous and even potentially deadly. But for factual accuracy, you relied on your background as a journalist, and you interviewed and consulted experts and Jewish historians and World War I and II historians and people for all of that. And how did you locate them or find out who you needed to speak with?
Right, that was fun. So I started with just the basic research that anybody would do. I had the story, the family story. That was my guide, holding hands with that story the whole way. I was thinking about bringing them today, but they're so big. I have these massive nonfiction books with Post-it notes.
The power of research books.
You do the same thing. It's wonderful.
Oh, I know.
So these massive books, obviously some internet research, but like any good journalist, you use your contacts. There's some things you can't find them in books. And I'm doing my research in French and English, so I've got that advantage. So I'm reading massive books in both languages. But there's some things you can't find in books on the internet. So I did use my contacts. For example, for the Polish part of the book, the Cohen Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Keene State College, Tom White, who's the former educator over there, he has been an early supporter of the book. And so I just kept hitting brick walls, you know, with some of this research. And so I connected with him. I said, hey, who do you know? So he connected me with a network of Polish Jewish researchers all over the world.
Oh my.
He emailed about a dozen of them, and probably 8 of them got back to me. And so I interviewed some of the premier Polish Jewish researchers in the world. I interviewed a guy in London at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I interviewed a guy in Johannesburg, New York, Israel. I mean, just unbelievable. So that was a big help.
That's so exciting.
It was so cool. And Tom is in the thank yous for sure. For the French side of things, again, you know, museums, reading the family story, my own research, but I still did feel like I kept hitting brick walls. So I'm pretty embedded in the French language, Franco-American community here in New Hampshire, given my work with the Franco-American Center and so forth. So I have friends of French descent. And so one of them said, the Cevennes? She said, my best friend lives in the Cevennes.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So
what a lucky break. That's the serendipity. You can't count on it. And then when it happens, you think,
it's just,
wow,
yes.
It's perfect, just what I needed.
It's unbelievable. So she connected me with her friend, who connected me with three researchers there. 2 of them didn't get back to me, which, you know, I understand, like they're busy. But one of them, who really is Mr. Cevennes, I mean, he is the guy. Oh. What a doll, Patrick Cabanal. And he has been my guide to the Cevennes. Can I tell you a little story about Patrick?
Yes.
Very short. So I connected with him. He was so nice. We talked on WhatsApp, we emailed, and then I said, look, I'm going to be in France, in the Cevennes. Can I, you know, take you to lunch and pick your brain? He said, oh, I'm so sorry. I will not be in France this summer. I will be in the United States teaching at Dartmouth. And I just started laughing my head off. I said, I'm sorry, Professor. I live an hour from Dartmouth, and I am coming
up. You can't get away from me. Yeah, you cannot escape this.
And then the last times, that was just this whole project. I mean, it's been a struggle in terms of, you know, getting traditionally published and so forth, but things like that. And I just feel like it's been covered with fairy dust. I do feel like the spirit of Sarah is guiding me. The spirit of Annette is helping me. They're helping me. So Patrick, Mr. Cevennes. And then lastly, in Alsace, there's a large museum there that speaks to the history that you just alluded to, Margaret, that history of being French and German and French and German. And I connected with the historians who work there, and they were lovely. I sat down with them for 3 hours the last time I was in France. And so people have just been so generous. It's great.
It's really lucky.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not that it's not a struggle to get that kind of expertise and everything, but again, you really got lucky with some making connections, which is wonderful.
Yes. Can you believe he was at Dartmouth for the summer?
I know. That's just, the universe can do amazing things.
I love that.
So let's talk a little bit about the path to publication and how I actually ended up being involved. I remember hearing you on the exchange saying, on your final broadcast saying, I'm leaving, I'm going to be writing, and the interviewer naturally says, well, what are you going to do? And you say, I'm writing this novel, and I got really excited about that. It was a historical novel. I checked my files of materials that you had sent me earlier in the process, and one was dated early in 2021, which was almost 4 years ago. And at that point, the manuscript was completed. And so you had been working on it as you were finishing up at NHPR,
right,
at the radio station. And then the book went through multiple drafts and lots of changes and revisions that I didn't see. And then the big one, which of course I noticed straight away, was that there was, in addition to eliminating some characters or writing differently about the characters, you had multiple characters and multiple viewpoints in the early incarnation. And then you went from a third-person narrative to writing a first-person narrative purely through Sarah's viewpoint,
right,
which works brilliantly in a story like this.
Thank you. Coming from you, I'm relieved.
But did you find that that challenging to change that focus and make it so, and internalize it so much? Was it enjoyable? I actually love revising, so for me that sounds like a fun project. It's like, oh, take everything that's in third person and put it in the first person in one character. It's like, okay, and that just sounds like fun. But how was that?
Right. It was big.
Yes, it was big.
I'm with you. I mean, I love writing first person because then you really can get into the person's head. I thought this, I saw this, I felt this. So that was fine. And actually that was my idea. But you're right, the book for most of its life was mainly told from Sarah's point of view, but there were about 5 other characters who had 2 chapters, 4 chapters, 5 chapters. And rather late in the process, my publisher said, you know, we love her, and when we bring all these other people in, we feel distracted. So let's just do it from her point of view. And I thought, okay, that's a lot of work. But it might be a good idea. And then I called you and other editor, author, friends who I trust, and all 5 of you said, you know, it's probably a good idea.
I thought, yes.
It's probably a good idea.
Yes, and also all those other characters that are there from Sarah's perspective.
Exactly.
And her relationships to them and theirs to her, but it's from her viewpoint and her experience. And also all the travails and trials, the good things that happen to her and the bad things that happen to her are all so internalized and so personalized through doing it this way that now I can't really remember how it was. I think the impact of the first person narrative for this story just works so well.
I'm glad because you know, Stephen King says kill your darlings, and I had to kill 5 of my darlings, which really hurt. But you're so right. I mean, as I got rid of those other people who had their other points of view, she became fuller and richer, and you're more inside her head and her stomach and her heart. And so ultimately, I think the guidance I got from you other people was good. And thank goodness you were all unanimous.
Well, and I'm not sure I knew that because I don't know at which point I was drawn into the conversation, but that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's telling. I mean, that means, yes, definitely. What did it feel like having to channel her thoughts and her emotions and writing as though you were having those experiences, so many of which were painful, not just emotionally, but physically? I mean, she has a long march, we'll say. Yeah. And you know, the reader just really is step by step with her in this grueling physical circumstance. And so how did that feel?
Oh, that's why first person is so good, because you can express it through her heart and through her words. We're so fortunate now because in addition to all the reading I did in both languages, there's a lot of videos of survivors of these times and of that particularly grueling episode that you mentioned. So I not only read their experiences, but I watched them talk about it. And that was very helpful. Also, I also had Sarah's own words. So most of what they call the saga Seber, you know, the family saga, most of it is told from the children's perspective, but there are about 5 pages that are her letters that she wrote to her children. And so partly I have it through herself. I mean, it's through her own words. And then her children's recollections. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah. But I guess the other thing I'd like to say is, you know, sometimes I wish that I had started my fiction writing career earlier, younger. But I also feel like when you're older, you experience things.
You wouldn't have been able to bring through it. You know, being a mother of sons or having children or trying to maintain their security.
Exactly. I mean, being a mother of sons, especially writing a book about war, I mean, young men in Alsace, 2 generations in a row, got forcibly conscripted into the German army, the World War I generation and the World War II generation. And so my sons are of that age, you know, they're in their 20s. And so that was really easy for me to pull out.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, let's Just a couple of questions about your path to publication. What would you say was the best part of that? What was the highlight of your path to publication?
Getting a book contract.
Of course.
That's great.
An easy answer. Yes.
That was great. I remember I was off at my office at, I work at UNH Law at the Redmond Center as a part-time. I help them with their communications. And I was in my office with my dear colleague, Ellen Grimm, who's another fairy godmother. So the book has 3 fairy godmothers, Margaret Porter, Ellen Grimm, and Suzanne Rico. And I opened my email, and there's an email from the publisher. And I said to Ellen, oh, another rejection letter. And then I opened it. So that was great. I would say the second part was my beautiful cover that the publisher made.
Yes.
And hats off to them, because the first version they made, I didn't love it. And you know, we went back and forth. I sent them a lot of ideas. And after 24 hours after I said, I really don't love this, they were like, okay. And my cover is beautiful.
It was such a speedy turnaround. I remember when you sent me that next version, and I was like, wow, they did this in so quickly, and they took on board what you had said, and it was really wonderful.
Shout out to Casey at Bedazzled Ink. It's gorgeous.
So you have another fiction project? You don't have to go into detail, but
yes, okay. I do. I'm so excited about this. I have 2, but I think I know what I want to do. Partly because my beleaguered husband was sort of a, you've heard about football widows? He's a novelist widower. Yes. So I told him, these are my 2 ideas. You get to pick.
Oh, nice.
So he picked when war is first declared in September of 1939, the entire city of Strasbourg is evacuated. The whole border along with Germany, all these little teeny towns. But Strasbourg is a city of 150,000 people. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, people have 2 days to pack up and go. And they get shipped to a southern city called Périgueux. Mm-hmm. And it's like Mars and Venus. I mean, they're northern people. They're very well educated. They live in fancy houses, not all of them. But, Strasbourg is very industrial. And Périgueux is like people have chickens running around their backyard. On top of that,
culture shock.
On top of that, a lot of people from Alsace spoke Alsatian first, which is a dialect that sounds like German.
Which was helpful in this.
Yes, very helpful. But the people in Périgueux, their husbands, their sons, their fathers are off fighting the Germans, and now they're supposed to feed, house, and shelter these people who sound like they're speaking like German. Uh-huh. Are they spies? Who are they really? But in the end, there were friendships, romances, marriages.
Great.
So these 2 sister cities, I want to write about them.
Well, you won't have time anytime soon because you've got lots of big events coming up. You have a regional book tour. You've got a road show all through New Hampshire. So do you want to tell us about some of these dates so viewers can know about them? Yes.
Here's my little flyer. On Wednesday the 12th, I'll be at the B&H stage.
Here in Concord.
Here in Concord. My dear former colleague Rick Ganley is going to do the interview from New Hampshire Public Radio. I'm so honored. Then I have something with the Franco-American Center at St. Anselm College with another French-themed author. Then the music hall, Lit at the Lounge, is their series in Portsmouth.
Nice.
And then my dear colleague Laura Cummings at White Birch Books up in North Conway, she does partnered events with the Pope Library up there. So it's Authors at the Pope. Doesn't that sound fun?
It sounds great. I wish I could go to all of them.
Yeah. There's more coming in December, but
I will definitely be at the one in Concord for sure.
Thank you.
Cheering you on and clapping. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon and having this conversation. And I really, really encourage everyone to purchase this book. It will be available at Gibson's Bookstore from November 7th onwards. Books make fantastic Christmas presents, so keep that in mind as the holiday season approaches, and Hanukkah presents as well. So thank you very much for viewing Turning Pages. It's always a pleasure to be here in the Concord TV studios, and a shout out to Mike for helping us out in the control room, and we will see you next time.